What if one man, thousands of years ago, discovered secrets so powerful that they echoed across time, shaped entire civilizations, and became the foundation of spiritual and scientific wisdom we still chase today? What if this man, born not into royalty or riches, but into mystery, held in his mind the keys to healing, building, and understanding the universe, and quietly changed the world forever? His name was Imhotep, and though most people today have never heard of him, he may have been the most extraordinary human to ever walk the earth. He didn't conquer nations or lead armies. He didn't wear a crown or sit on a throne. But what he left behind was far more lasting. He left behind knowledge. Knowledge of the human body. Knowledge of how to create structures that could survive for thousands of years. Knowledge of how the soul moves between this world and the next. Long before modern science, before Greek philosophy, before any formal religion had names for these truths, there was Imhotep, architect, healer, priest, mystic, and perhaps, if legends are true, the very first incarnation of the being the ancient world would later call Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice great master of sacred wisdom. Imhotep lived during the third dynasty of Egypt, around 2700 BCE, serving under Pharaoh Djoser. Though his exact origins are lost to time, he rose to become the king's vizier, a position of immense influence. But his power didn't come from politics or bloodline. It came from brilliance. His mind reached beyond his era, beyond even the boundaries of logic and belief. He didn't see the world as most did, where others saw stone. He saw sacred patterns. Where others saw sickness, he saw balance disrupted. Where others feared death, he saw a path beyond. He transformed medicine by treating it as a science. While many believed illness was a curse from the gods, Imhotep looked closely at the human body. He studied its parts. He recorded symptoms and treatments. He searched for cures. He believed that healing required more than herbs. It required harmony. To be well, a person's mind, body, and soul had to be aligned. Egyptian medical writings from centuries later still quote him, referencing surgical techniques, herbal remedies, and even the use of honey to fight infection, something modern medicine only recently confirmed. His influence reached so far that the Greeks honored him as a god of healing, equating him with their own divine physician, Asclepius. But his hands shaped more than bodies. They shaped the land itself. Before Imhotep, Egyptian tombs were low, rectangular buildings called mastabas. Imhotep imagined something entirely different, a tomb that would rise upward like a staircase to the sky. He created the first pyramid, the step pyramid of Saqqara. This wasn't just a revolution in architecture. It was a spiritual statement. The pyramid wasn't meant to trap the dead. It was built to lift the soul. Its step design represented the climb from earth to heaven, from human to divine. Inside, the structure was more than stone. It held hidden passages, chambers, and symbols. Many believe it wasn't just a monument. It was a spiritual machine designed to guide the pharaoh's soul into the afterlife. Every part of it was intentional. Every measurement, every angle, every direction, it all had meaning. Imhotep wasn't just a builder. He was a translator of cosmic order into physical form. He understood sacred geometry. He worked with energy and purpose, creating something that connected the earthly world with the divine. As a high priest of Ptah, the Egyptian creator god, Imhotep was deeply initiated in spiritual knowledge. In ancient Egypt, wisdom wasn't written in books or shared openly. It was passed down through sacred initiation, taught only to those ready to carry it with responsibility. Imhotep would have learned, mastered, and eventually passed on these teachings. Egyptian temples were not just places of prayer, they were schools of divine science, where astronomy, alchemy, mathematics, and philosophy were taught side by side. Imhotep's knowledge lived in these walls, and even after his death, his teachings continued to shape the beliefs of those who walked these sacred paths. Over time, Imhotep's legend grew. He was no longer seen as just a man. He became something more. He was remembered not only in Egypt, but in other cultures too. As Egypt encountered Greece, his story merged with that of Thoth, the Egyptian god of wisdom, magic, and writing. Thoth, in turn, was linked to the Greek god Hermes, and from this blending of divine identities, a new figure emerged, Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice great master of wisdom, who taught that all things are one, that the mind shapes reality, and that spiritual and physical worlds are deeply connected. Many now believe that Hermes Trismegistus was a transformed memory of Imhotep, that the core ideas of Hermetic philosophy, the unity of all things, the connection between mind and matter, the path to transformation through knowledge, were born in Egyptian temples through Imhotep's work and preserved through secret traditions. These teachings reappeared centuries later in the Hermetic texts that influenced mystics, alchemists, scientists, and philosophers throughout the ancient and medieval world. The wisdom was the same, just written in a different language. Imhotep understood that real transformation begins within. He believed that just as metals could be turned to gold through alchemy, the soul could be purifying and raised to higher understanding. This kind of inner transformation became a central theme of Hermetic teachings. The concept of becoming something more, of rising from a lower nature to a higher one, was present in the very pyramid he built. The structure itself symbolized ascension, not just for the pharaoh it housed, but for anyone seeking higher truth. The Greeks and later the Romans were fascinated by Imhotep's legacy. Thinkers like Plato and Pythagoras are said to have studied in Egypt, and it's possible they were influenced by teachings passed down through priestly schools that had preserved Imhotep's wisdom. Some even believe his knowledge reached as far as the Essenes, the mystical Jewish group near the Dead Sea, known for their spiritual practices, healing arts, and deep understanding of the soul's journey, ideas that mirror Hermetic and Egyptian philosophies. There is also the idea that the title Trismegistus, or thrice great, may have originated with Imhotep himself. In Egypt, a man who mastered medicine, architecture, and spirituality, the three sacred sciences, was said to be great 3 times. Imhotep was a master of all 3. He healed with wisdom, built with purpose, and guided souls with sacred knowledge. If anyone earned the title of thrice great, it was him. And yet, his final resting place remains a mystery. For centuries, people have searched for Imhotep's tomb. Temples were built in his honor. Priests worshipped him, but his body was never found. Some believe it was hidden by those who knew the power of the knowledge buried with him. Others think the tomb may contain scrolls or artifacts so powerful that their discovery could change our entire understanding of history, spirituality, and science. Or maybe the mystery is the message. Maybe what Imhotep left behind wasn't meant to be found in stone, but in thought, in the timeless search for wisdom that still lives in every soul brave enough to ask deeper questions. His life reminds us that greatness doesn't come from fame or wealth or titles. It comes from vision, from understanding, from serving something higher than yourself. Imhotep's story is not just about the past. It's about what is possible when the human mind and the human spirit work together. He didn't chase immortality by being remembered. He became immortal by becoming truth itself. He became the silent architect of the human soul's journey from earth to sky. Even if we never find his tomb, we can still follow the path he laid out. We can learn, heal, build, and rise. We can become more than what we were taught to be. And in doing so, we honor the life of the man who showed us how. Imhotep was not only the past. He is the timeless whisper in every heart that longs for truth, every mind that seeks to understand, and every soul that dares to rise. Long ago in ancient Egypt, temples were not just places of worship or grand monuments of stone. They were living symbols of a deep spiritual science. Each one was carefully built to align with constellations in the sky. The Egyptians believed the stars, planets, seasons, and even the human body were all part of one vast cosmic design. They saw the body as a mirror of the universe, and they lived in harmony with the movement of the heavens. Their rituals were timed with the stars. Their architecture reflected the patterns they saw in the sky. Everything had purpose. Nothing was random. And at the heart of this sacred knowledge stood a man whose wisdom would echo through the ages. Imhotep. Imhotep was not just a high priest. He was a physician, an architect, a philosopher, a scientist, and a mystic. His knowledge was so vast, so refined, and so far ahead of his time that even thousands of years later, people still study him with awe. What others may have felt intuitively, Imhotep understood and organized. He took what was mysterious and gave it form. He believed that the invisible energies of nature, the forces that govern life, healing, time, and movement, could be channeled and directed using sacred geometry. He used numbers, shapes, and proportions not just for beauty, but to reflect the deep laws of the universe. Every temple he designed, every chamber he constructed, was a living expression of cosmic truth. His work was not simply physical. It was spiritual science carved in stone. Centuries later, Greek philosophers like Pythagoras would teach that numbers hold the key to understanding the universe, that harmony lies in proportion, and that the soul responds to mathematical balance. But long before those ideas reached Greece, Imhotep had already practiced them in Egypt. Many believe he may have been the true origin of what is now called Hermetic wisdom, a sacred teaching that says all things are connected, that the mind shapes reality, and that understanding the hidden laws of nature gives access to divine truth. But this raises a deeper question. How did Imhotep come to know such things? How could a man living so long ago understand ideas that modern science is only beginning to touch? Some believe he didn't learn them through trial and error. They say he inherited them. They suggest that his knowledge came from an earlier civilization, one that existed before Egypt rose to power. These theories point to Atlantis, a mysterious land written about by Plato, or to some other lost civilization that may have flourished long before recorded history. According to this view, Imhotep was not just a brilliant individual. He was a guardian of ancient knowledge, a protector of truths that had nearly been forgotten. He preserved these teachings in the temples he built and in the rituals he performed, ensuring that the wisdom would not be entirely lost to time. It's possible that some of his secrets were passed down to the generations of priests who came after him, but it's also likely that much of what he knew was intentionally hidden. In ancient Egypt, deep knowledge was not shared openly. It was protected. The temples served as sacred schools where only the spiritually prepared, those who had gone through long initiation, could receive the highest truths. The average person saw only the surface, but behind the walls, in hidden chambers, the greatest mysteries were taught to those deemed ready. It is believed that within those secret spaces, Imhotep taught things that revealed the true nature of life, death, healing, and the universe. But as the centuries passed, Egypt began to change. Foreign rulers arrived. The Greeks came, followed by the Romans. With them came new beliefs, new systems, and disruptions to the sacred traditions. Over time, the ancient knowledge was scattered. Some of it was misunderstood. Some was reinterpreted. Much of it was lost. And yet, it never fully disappeared. Pieces of Imhotep's wisdom still appear in the writings of alchemists, in the cryptic texts of Hermetic philosophers, and in the teachings of mystical orders that survived quietly across the centuries. Though the surface may have faded, the essence lived on. Imhotep seemed to understand something that humanity still struggles to grasp: that true power is not in weapons, wealth, or control, but in understanding the unseen forces that shape all things. He knew that healing did not only involve treating the body, but also aligning the spirit and the mind. He saw the human being not just as flesh and bone, but as energy, vibration, and light, intricately connected to the cosmos. And if he left clues to this knowledge, they were not written like ordinary books. They were hidden in the layout of temples, in the measurements of sacred rooms, in the angles of stone walls, and in ancient symbols that only the initiated would understand. Across many mystical traditions, there is a belief that some great teachers do not vanish after death. Their spirits move through time. They return when needed. In Hermetic teachings, it is said that the truly initiated can pass through the centuries, reincarnating when necessary to protect the flame of wisdom. Could Imhotep have been one of these eternal teachers? Could he have walked the earth in other lifetimes, under different names, carrying the same message and the same mission? Some believe he may have returned as Hermes Trismegistus, a legendary figure said to be the source of many spiritual and philosophical teachings. According to legend, Hermes was a master who moved between the world of matter and the world of spirit, bringing light to those ready to receive it. Many believe Hermes and Imhotep were one and the same. In ancient Egyptian belief, a great sage who reached spiritual enlightenment could become an ankh, a shining, immortal being who moved beyond death and could still interact with the living. These beings were not ghosts, but enlightened souls who chose to guide humanity from behind the veil. Hermetic texts speak of eternal wisdom, truths that are hidden from ordinary eyes, but always available to those who truly seek. If Imhotep was the first messenger of this wisdom, then his return is not about time or place. It is about perception. He never left. He simply waits in the background, waiting for humanity to be ready again. And perhaps we are reaching that moment now. Today, Modern science is starting to rediscover what ancient Egypt already seemed to know. We are learning that the mind affects the body, that vibration can heal, that sound and energy have real effects on health. We are beginning to understand that geometry, patterns, and frequencies shape reality. Step by step, medicine, spirituality, and science are coming back into harmony. The very ideas that guided Imhotep's life are slowly being remembered by people today. In medicine, we see a growing interest in holistic healing. We now understand that health is not only about treating the body, but about caring for the mind and energy system too. Therapies using sound frequencies, research on how consciousness affects matter, and discoveries in epigenetics are showing us what Imhotep may have already known, that the human being is a vibrational force, deeply connected to the universe. In the world of spirituality, more people are exploring how science and mysticism may actually fit together. The ancient Hermetic belief that the universe is mental is being studied in the context of quantum physics, consciousness research, and metaphysical exploration. Once seen as superstition, these ideas are now being tested, explored, and taken seriously. The gap between science and spirit is closing, and it reflects exactly what Imhotep represented. He stood between two worlds, bringing spiritual knowledge into the physical realm and using science as a tool to express the sacred. If the return of a great teacher is measured not by a physical presence, but by the return of their ideas, then Imhotep is already here. His wisdom is rising again, not through stone monuments this time, but through human minds waking up, questioning, remembering. People are once again feeling the call to live in harmony with nature, to explore the connection between body and spirit, and to see life not as a machine, but as a mystery. This is how masters return, through ideas, through echoes, through awakening. But with every return of truth, there is always resistance. This is a pattern throughout history. When wisdom rises, there are always those who fear it. Sacred knowledge has always been contested. Sometimes is hidden by those who wish to protect it. Sometimes it is destroyed by those who fear its power. Libraries have been burned. Temples have been torn down. Secrets have been buried. But truth never fully dies. It lingers. It hides in stories, in art, in dreams, in the quiet knowing of the soul, and it waits for those who are bold enough to seek it. So Imhotep remains, wrapped in the mists of time, not just a man from history, but a symbol of what it means to unite science and spirit. He was the world's first known architect, but also a healer, a mystic, an astronomer, and an advisor to kings. He embodied what it meant to live with purpose, to build not just with hands, but with heart and insight. He showed that knowledge is sacred, and that true wisdom leads us back to the divine. And in remembering him, not just as a figure of the past, but as a teacher for the future, we are reminded of what we've always known deep down, that the universe is alive, that everything is connected, and that the path to truth is not outside us, but within us. And maybe that is the real legacy he left behind, not temples or scrolls or monuments, but a seed planted deep in the human soul, waiting to awaken when the world is ready again.